to it. I know some people said that when he was talking to the media on media day, that he kind of seemed a little bit, disoriented. He didn't seem like he was fully, into, talking about what's going, the season and everything. And, look, I think that Crawford's still pissed off that the Blackhawks just basically decided to move on from him without giving him much of an opportunity to, try to, make his case to stay. But, I'm sure the Devils in one way or another are going to handle this situation as best as they can. It is not ideal from this playing standpoint if Crawford ends up not playing this year, because it would just kind of throw a wrench in some of the expectations that I think all of us here can safely say that we had from the goaltending standpoint. I don't know if, we were all of us were saying, how great it is that we have, a really solid goaltending tandem going into the season. If we end up with Blackwood and maybe Scott Wedgwood or Sen, I think everybody's expectation would be more of, well, Mackenzie Blackwood's going to play somewhere along the lines of 35 to 40 games because they may not have a lot of confidence in the other guys. I don't really know. But in all, the real serious thing here is that we all just hope that he's okay, talking about Corey Crawford, and that it's nothing too severe. And that's what's concerning, is that the Devils are really quiet about this. They're not just coming out and saying it's not a big deal, don't worry about it. They're kind of not really saying anything. And we're all sitting around like, what exactly is the issue here?
Well, yeah, and I know, Joe, you want to get on this, but I just want to follow up on your point with Sen there and this.
Yeah.
And, the other, I was watching some of the game yesterday, and I was impressed with Blackwood, but also Wedgwood. But Wedgwood was a given. He was making this team regardless of if Crawford was here or not. I think they would have just gone with the NHL experience to have on the taxi squad.
Right.
And that's
exactly.
me.
They would have had him as the third goaltender on this team, regardless of what happens. Regardless of what was going to happen in training camp.
Yeah. And then and it's good to see that Sen's doing well and progressing in the system, because he could be a guy, down the road, if Crawford was taken in the Seattle expansion, or if he wasn't protected, maybe he could come up and back up. But, the Devils have a history of this. And if you go back, Paul Martin injury, and then the Nico injury. No one really knew about it except one guy. And now all of a sudden we really don't hear about how bad it is. Oh, it's a knee. It could be an ankle. We don't really know. They don't know their medical staff does not handle injuries well. Rushed back Corey Schneider, Travis Zajac. Just the list goes on. Oh. So the secrecy tells me that there's something maybe more serious, and hopefully it's not. And hopefully the best for him, because just a lot of bad signs right now. That's just me.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation to be in, because again, we have, look, let's be honest here. Let's all just say what the reality is that nobody expects the Devils to be, a playoff team this season. Matter of fact, everybody at the Hockey Podcast Network that I'm with projects the Devils to finish in dead last, which is, I guess, a fair thing to say. I don't fully agree with that, but
no, neither do I.
Nonetheless,
neither do I.
Well, obviously, none of us are going to agree with that. But I can understand on paper why people would say that, especially because we're in the arguably the toughest division, or the division of death, as everybody's calling it, this year. But again, we all were excited about the goaltending process, situation, because we said Blackwood, we got him to a new contract, and then Corey Crawford, a legitimate good, backup goaltender who can play a good amount of minutes. We felt like we could be kind of relaxed in that realm. And now that it's been 4 or 5 days since the last time we saw Corey Crawford even on the ice, is definitely a concerning thing. And it's not an injury related thing from what anybody has said. It sounds like it's more of something more personal. They said it was personal, that why he's not playing. I don't know. And we don't know what that is, obviously. The NHL does a pretty good job of keeping that type of stuff very quiet. We usually don't know what those things are. and hopefully it's not what I think it is. I'm worried that he might have COVID or something, and this would be the second time I think he's had it, because I think he had it
Yes.
a while back.
He had it. He got it right before the Blackhawks returned to play in August.
Right, exactly. And so this is certainly a concerning thing, especially with all the excitement, because look, there's a lot of things that we have to be excited about, even today. Just, you look at someone like, and Joe, you and I have talked about this numerous times. Igor Sharangovich, not surprisingly, he's been tearing it up in camp. I mean, I would be shocked at this point if he didn't make the team, because he's clearly above, head and shoulders above a lot of players that the Devils have right now. This is a guy that can make our bottom six that much
rather easily.
Exactly. And then you have other guys like Jack Hughes spending a lot of time after practice getting better. Same thing with Ty Smith. Mackenzie Blackwood seems to be getting in pretty good form. Some of the other goaltenders are playing well. There's a lot of good things to look forward to. And this is kind of a frustrating situation. But again, for all we know, by this time tomorrow, we might have an answer as to what's going on.
And here's a really good, funny situation, kind of make it a little light in the mood. With Sammy Vatanen coming back, as a free agent for 1 year, $2 million, he's going to be playing on the same team as Yanni Kuokkanen, the guy he was traded for to Carolina. So take that for a grain of salt for what that's worth. And then you have Nico Dawes with that pick. So there's a lot of interesting things that Sami and his fellow Finn Yanni can joke around and, kind of make the dressing room a little bit more fun and more Finnish. But really when these guys, join in, this is important to build this team chemistry. We talk about guys like Sharangovich playing on a high level. We talk about guys like Jesper Boqvist probably taking Jesper Bratt's spot on the roster for the time being. And Andreas Janssen, you have what I like to call the Nordic Union on the Devils roster, where you have Kuokkanen, you have Boqvist, you have Janssen. Eventually, Bratt's going to be there. So you have a good amount of players that have really good experience.
Is he?
Youth. Is he?
I mean, that's the $1 million question. I mean,
I don't know what this guy thinks he deserves to be paid, but it's not off Boqvist money. And look, Alex and I have been talking about this on Twitter, and but if he thinks he's getting that kind of money for one good season and being inconsistent in and out of the lineup for the last 2 seasons, he's got another thing coming.
Well, I think the thing we have to always keep in mind and understand when it comes to these type of situations, that I don't personally think that this has anything to do with Bratt wanting something in particular. I think that you have to remember there is complication with the fact that he also has to get a work visa from Sweden in order to even get over here. I don't think that this is going to be something that's going to linger on until, well after the season starts. I think within the next week or so, we're probably going to end up getting it. They're going to end up getting a deal done. I think it's just about, they're trying to figure out, not only from the Devils' perspective as to how much money that they would be okay with giving him per year, but also you look at the other factors of things like, other players that could be on the team in the future, young guys that the Devils could, sign in free agency, guys that could make moves in, via trade. It's all those particulars. And I believe Fitzgerald when he says that we are making really good progress in talking with Jesper Bratt and getting that done. And I think that Bratt wants to get it done. I think he wants to be in New Jersey right now. And I think he wants to just get this done sooner rather than later. So I don't think it's a money thing. I think a lot of it has to do with more of just, there are certain particulars in contracts that we sometimes don't know about that just need to get fixed. And I think it'll get done soon.
I don't know. I think it's totally a money thing. I mean, from what Elliot Friedman said on his latest edition of 31 Thoughts, he said it doesn't sound like the two sides are even close at all. So there's definitely a significant gap between whatever the Devils are offering him and whatever whatever Jesper Bratt wants. I don't know. I mean, the deadline to sign RFAs is February 11th, so they still got about a month. But sounds like there's a lot to close the gap over the next whatever amount of days until they get him signed, because it does not sound like they are close at all.
It wouldn't be ideal to let it wouldn't be ideal to let a guy like Bratt walk. That would be the one thing that I think we all can agree on. The Devils have a lot of cap space right now, and I think that it would behoove of them to use it to bring Bratt back. I'm gonna throw a curveball at you guys really quick, talking about basically, the whole Bratt situation. If by some chance it's still not working out, and let's say the Devils can try to maybe make a move to, I don't know, maybe trade him, right? And I know that it's difficult with, trading players across the border with COVID and everything. But once again, the Patrik Laine rumors are heating up again, that the Jets are trying to move Patrik Laine, and also I believe they're trying to move someone else as well. I don't remember who exactly they're. Roslovic.
Roslovic.
Oh, yeah, Jack Roslovic. Yes.
Right. And I look at it this way. I said, you know what? If Bratt and the Devils can't agree on something, I think that the best thing that the Devils could do to try to maximize the opportunity is to try to involve Bratt in a trade for a guy like Laine to kind of, because Bratt would be a young player that the Jets wouldn't have to spend a whole lot of money to give him what he's looking for. And we don't even know what exactly Bratt's looking for necessarily. I think that's the key thing we have to remember here. We don't know exactly what he's looking for. But I just thought that would be kind of an interesting thing. It'd be like a sign and trade type of deal. I'm not saying it's a 1-for-1. I know that there would have to be more involved, but I was thinking about that today when I looked at the situation with Bratt, and I said, if you can, if it's an area that they can't reach, if they cannot meet on a certain money line, if that's what they're looking for, then I think the next best thing is to move him, to give him to somebody else to do that. As much as I don't want that, because I think Bratt still has the chance to become a very, very good player in this league. I mean, he's proven that, and he's our top left winger right now. But I just think that could be a possibility. But again, I'm still fairly confident that the Devils will be able to get Bratt signed, whether it's just before training camp ends or just after the season starts. I don't know, but I'm fairly optimistic about it.
Neil, I'm glad you actually brought that up and you actually threw that curveball, because I mean, Alex and I were talking about this, I think it was a few days ago. And I had mentioned to Alex that, Jesper Bratt's contract, I mean, they had all this time and they haven't got anything done yet. And apparently they're not close. And I was like, okay, well, if this drags on, are they going to move him? And Alex was like, no, well, I think they'll eventually get him signed, which I think will happen too. But the Laine thing is very interesting because, I mean, obviously we haven't really heard much, if at all, that the Devils were even interested in acquiring from Winnipeg. I assume they would. Any team looking to improve, rebuild, or contender would be after Patrik Laine.
I'm sure there's some interest, honestly. We have to remember that before the start of the 2018-19 season, the Devils had expressed a lot of interest in Laine while he was still trying to figure out his situation, and the Devils had called the Jets several times. And then even last season, it was the same thing. And then even this offseason, some of us, we had talked about the fact that the Devils were one of the teams that was rumored to be heavily interested in Patrik Laine. So I wouldn't be surprised if Tom Fitzgerald went down that road again, because I think he sees a guy like Laine as a guy that could be not like the last piece to a puzzle, but a guy that could really get this team over the hump when it comes to their offensive, creating a consistent offensive, type of, team. I think that's really what they're looking for. And if the Jets are trying to move someone like Laine before the season starts, and we have about a week, exactly a week actually until the season starts, it would happen very soon. But I think honestly, at the end of the day, again, just like when we were talking about this back in October for the draft, I don't think that Patrik Laine is going to get moved to start the season. I think the Jets are going to see how this plays out. I think they want to see where the team goes, and then they'll make a decision after that. And as far as the Devils with Bratt, again,